Stand with me right here, at the end of your own driveway, and look back at your house the way a stranger does. That thumbnail promised you upgrades from the dollar store that need no permission from anybody, and I mean it. But first I need you to see what I see, because the verdict already happened. In the time it took you to read this far, a person driving past your home decided what it's worth, who lives there, and whether they'd ever knock on that door. They decided all of it without a single word. That silent verdict is the most expensive thing on your property, and almost nobody sees it forming. I've spent decades in this trade, quoting driveways and standing on curbs beside buyers, agents, and appraisers, and I learned to watch faces instead of houses. The face tells you everything the mouth never says. Here's what I'm going to prove to you before we're done. There is one detail near your front door, a detail you can fix this weekend for less than the price of a coffee, that decides the entire verdict. Not the roof, not the size, that one small thing. And this matters whether you plan to sell this spring or stay another 20 years, because you are the one who has to walk up to it every single day. Let me tell you about a house in a quiet cul-de-sac I'll never forget. Nice home, good bones, priced fair. I watched a couple pull up and the wife never took off her seatbelt. She looked at the front of that house for maybe 4 seconds, said something to her husband, and they drove off. They never got out of the car. The agent standing next to me just exhaled. That 4-second glance cost the seller a real buyer, and the wild part is the fix would have cost about $6. So let's walk it together. Slowly. The way they see it. Start where their eyes start, which is not where you think. You think they look at your house. They don't. The first thing the human eye grabs is the line where your lawn meets your driveway and your beds, the edges. Look down at that seam right there along your walkway. See how the grass has crept over the concrete, softening the line, blurring it into a fuzzy green smudge? Your eye reads that instantly, before you can even name it, as neglect. Not neglect of the edge, neglect of everything. Here's the insider truth I had to learn the hard way. A crisp edge is the single cheapest signal of care that exists, and a blurry edge quietly whispers that if the owner ignored this, they probably ignored the furnace filter, the gutters, and the water heater too. Buyers don't think that consciously, they feel it. And an appraiser walking your property makes a general condition note in the first 30 seconds that colors every number that follows. Now, the dollar store fix, and this is where the no approval magic begins. Your homeowners association can regulate structures, fences, paint colors, permanent installations. What it almost never regulates is a clean line in the dirt. Grab a straight metal edging tool, or honestly a sturdy putty knife from the dollar store, and cut a sharp 2-inch trench where your bed meets your lawn. Just a shadow line. That dark, crisp groove tricks the eye into reading the whole yard is maintained. Landscapers charge $200, $300 to edge an average front yard. You just did the highest impact part for $1.25 in an afternoon. Therefore, if the edge is the frame, we have to talk about what's inside the frame, because a sharp edge around a tired, faded bed only draws more attention to the tired, faded bed. Walk with me to your planting beds. Look at the color of the ground. What color is your mulch right now? Be honest. If it's that grayish, silvery, sun-bleached tan, I need you to understand what that does. Faded mulch reads as time passing. It says nobody has touched this in a year, maybe 2. And here's the part that stings, because I made this exact mistake on my own place years ago. I thought mulch was about the plants. It isn't. Mulch is about contrast. Dark, fresh mulch does one specific job. It makes everything green in front of it pop like it's lit from behind. The same shrub, the same hosta, the same little boxwood looks 20% healthier sitting on dark brown ground than it does on faded gray. Nothing about the plant changed. Only the background did. Your eye reads the contrast as vitality. Now most people run to the big box store and drop $60, $80, $100 on bags of mulch and haul them in an aching trunk. But you don't need to blanket the whole bed to win the verdict. You need to refresh the front 18 inches. The strip closest to the walkway and the curb. The part their eyes actually land on. A handful of dollar store mulch bags, or even a bag of dark topsoil raked thin over the front edge, resets the whole read. Nobody driving by sees the back of the bed. They see the front line, dark and rich, and their brain fills in the rest as cared for. The extension research backs this up in dollars. Studies out of Virginia Tech and horticulture programs across the country have put real numbers on this, showing that quality landscaping and a well-kept front presentation can add somewhere between 5 and 12% to a home's perceived value, and in some sophisticated cases even higher. On a $300,000 home, the low end of that is $15,000 riding on ground you can refresh for the price of lunch. That is not a decorating choice. That is the best return per dollar anywhere on your property. Look at the approach to your entrance. What's flanking your door? For most homes in America, the answer is nothing or something sad. One dead plant in a cracked pot on the left and empty concrete on the right. And I want you to notice how your own eye reacts to that imbalance, because this is the thing that Silent Verdict runs on more than anything else. Symmetry. The human brain is wired to trust symmetry. We read it as intentional, safe, cared for, expensive. We read asymmetry and clutter as chaos and neglect. When a buyer looks at your front door and sees one lonely object on one side and a bare slab on the other, their brain files it under unfinished. When they see two matching somethings framing the door like a pair of parentheses, their brain files it under this house is loved. This is the cheapest psychological trick in the entire trade, and the dollar store was practically built for it. Two matching planters, two matching solar lanterns, two matching anything, one on each side of that door. It does not need to be fancy. It needs to be a pair. I have watched a $5 pair of black planters, filled with nothing but a $1 bag of soil and a single cheap fern, do more for a front entrance than a $2,000 door replacement, because the door was never the problem. The frame around it was. And here's your no approval armor again. An association can tell you what color to paint your door. It cannot tell you that you can't set two matching pots beside it. Those pots aren't permanent. They aren't structural, they're decor, and decor near your own front step is your business. You are working in the one zone of your property where nobody gets a vote but you, but symmetry only wins in daylight. And here's the thing almost every homeowner forgets, the thing I forgot for years. Buyers drive by after work. Agents show homes in the evening. That first verdict-forming glance very often happens in the dark, and a house that looks charming at noon can look abandoned at 7 p.m. So let's talk about what your house says after the sun goes down, because this is where the dollar store quietly becomes the best-kept secret in curb appeal. Stand here and picture your front at night right now. Is there any light on the path? Any glow near the door? Or is it a black void with one harsh yellow bulb over the garage? A dark front reads as empty. It reads as unsafe. A buyer's most primitive instinct kicks in, the same instinct that kept our ancestors out of dark caves, and they simply don't want to walk up to it. A softly lit path reads as welcoming, occupied, safe, and expensive, because for decades, landscape lighting was a luxury that cost thousands of dollars to trench and wire. Not anymore. Dollar store solar path lights changed the whole game, and most people still don't take them seriously because they cost $1.25 and they assume cheap means useless. Here's the insider read. At night, nobody can tell the difference between a $1 solar light and a $40 one. It's dark. All the eye sees is a warm point of light rising from the ground, and warmth reads as care regardless of the price tag on the fixture. Line 4 or 6 of them, up the walkway, evenly spaced, and you have transformed the nighttime verdict from abandoned to inviting for about $6 total. Space them evenly. That's the whole secret. Uneven spacing reads as accidental. Even spacing reads as designed. Measure it out with your feet if you have to. Heel to toe, same count between each one. That rhythm is what your eye reads as intentional, and intentional is the entire game. Therefore, now that your path glows and your door is framed, I have to stop you and address something, because I can feel half of you pulling back right now. But dark ground and crisp edges do something dangerous. Right now, you're kneeling at that front strip, hands in cheap mulch, seeing your own yard clearly for the very first time. That's the exact moment most people freeze. You can see the problem, but you don't know the order to fix everything, and one wrong move wastes the little money you've got. That's the whole reason I put the full walk into the complete curb appeal system. First look hands you the hierarchy of impact, so every single dollar lands in the right spot instead of the wrong one. and it shows you the edit first rule that stops wasted spending cold. Yard Elevated goes further, showing you the upgrades that add real dollars at resale and how to strip out what's silently making your yard look cheap. And here's a check you can run tonight. Free, no tools. Walk to the end of your driveway after dark, turn around, and count how many seconds it takes your own eye to find one flaw. If it's under 4, that's the same glance a buyer makes, and it's exactly what the book teaches you to control. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. And the season for this is right now, because the ground you refresh this season is the front your neighbors and any buyer see all season long. Now let me show you the spot the trade never points at, the one that undoes every fix if you skip it. Come up the walkway with me and stop about halfway. Some of you are thinking, this is all fine for people trying to sell, but I'm staying put. I don't care what a buyer thinks. I care about my own home. I want you to stay right here with me, because this next part is built specifically for you, and it's the part I care about most. Here's what nobody tells the person who's staying. That silent verdict isn't just for strangers. You render it too, every single day, and you don't even know you're doing it. Every time you pull into your driveway after a long day, your own brain runs the same 4-second scan a buyer runs. And when it lands on the faded mulch, the blurry edge, the dark, empty path, it registers a tiny, wordless disappointment. You've stopped noticing it consciously, but your nervous system hasn't. That low-grade heaviness of pulling up to a place that feels neglected even when you love it is a tax you pay every evening. Flip it, and the opposite happens. You pull up to a lit path, a framed door, a crisp, dark bed, and something in you exhales. You feel proud to be home. That feeling is worth more than any resale number. And here's the beautiful part. It costs exactly the same. The couple staying 20 years and the couple selling in 20 days both win from the identical fix. So here's the one that serves both of you. Cheap, no contractor, no approval. Take a single Saturday morning. Cut your edges crisp. Refresh the front strip of mulch dark. Set 2 matching pots by the door. Line the path with even solar lights. That's it. That's a full front yard reset for under $20. And whether you're chasing a buyer's offer or your own peace of mind coming home, the return is immediate and it's real. You don't need to sell to deserve a home that greets you well. Now I need to be straight with you about something, because I promised you honesty, and now that you're invested, you're ready to hear it. Someone benefits from you never learning any of this. The landscaping company that quotes you $1,200 for a front yard refresh benefits, the trend designer selling you on some complicated planting scheme benefits, the big box store that stacks the mulch in a giant pallet by the door, betting you'll grab 8 bags when your front strip needs 2 benefits. None of them are evil, but none of them are going to tell you that the highest impact fixes on your entire property cost less than a fast food combo, because there's no margin in telling you that. I only learned it by standing on curbs long enough to watch which cheap things moved the verdict and which expensive things didn't move it at all. And the most expensive thing they never point at is the one detail we haven't reached yet. The deciding one. So let's finish the walk, because everything so far has just been getting the buyer's eyes to travel to this exact spot. Come all the way up to your door with me. Stop on the threshold. Look down, then look right at eye level. This tiny zone, the last 3 feet before someone reaches your door, is where the entire verdict gets locked in. And I learned that the hard way over a lot of years, because I used to think the big stuff mattered most. It doesn't. The close-up stuff does, because this is the only part of your whole property a buyer experiences up close, standing still, while the agent fumbles with the lockbox. Here's the science of that moment. Everything else, the lawn, the beds, the roofline, they saw from a distance and from a moving car, forgiving conditions. But right here, they are standing motionless, 3 feet away, with nothing to do but stare, for 30 or 60 full seconds, while the door gets unlocked. Every detail is magnified. Every flaw is under a microscope. This is the closing argument of your house, and most people leave it blank or leave it filthy. So look at 3 things with me, right here, because this is the finale. This is the detail that decides it all. First, your door hardware and the immediate frame. Cobwebs in the top corners. a dusty light fixture with a dead bug in it, scuffs at ankle height where shoes have kicked. Buyers see these from 6 inches away, and they read them as the true condition of the house, because they figure if you didn't clean the one spot every guest stands in, what did you skip that they can't see? A dollar store duster, a rag, and 5 minutes erases years of that impression. Second, and this is the piece almost nobody thinks about, your house numbers. Stand back and look at them. Are they faded, crooked, half missing, the brass worn down to nothing, or so small nobody could read them from the street? Here's what I learned standing next to appraisers and delivery-reliant buyers alike. Clear, clean, visible house numbers read as competence and pride at a subconscious level. And worse, invisible numbers create a tiny moment of frustration when someone's trying to find your home, and frustration is the last emotion you want attached to your address. A set of clean, bold, stick-on or screw-in numbers from the dollar store, applied straight and level, is maybe $2, and it upgrades the single most photographed square foot of your entire property. And third, the deciding detail, the one I'd bet the whole verdict on if you only did one thing on this entire list: the mat under their feet. Look down at what's there now. A curled up, faded, gray, frayed doormat, or bare concrete with a dark worn shadow where a mat used to be. I watched buyers glance down at exactly this, at the last second before stepping inside, and I watched the verdict finalize on their faces, because a worn-out mat at a nice door is a contradiction the brain cannot ignore. It's the detail that says the welcome itself is tired. Here is why the mat is the secret finale and not the door, not the lights, not the mulch. The mat is the only object on your property that a person physically touches and stands on while making the decision. Their body is on it, and a crisp, clean, high-contrast mat, ideally dark with a simple pattern or a single clean word, does 3 jobs at once. It anchors the symmetry between your 2 pots. It gives the feet a clean place to land so no dirt tracks the impression inside. And it delivers the final emotional note of the entire walkthrough, which is, you are welcome here, this home is cared for, come in. A fresh doormat at the dollar store or a discount rack is a couple of dollars. And it is, without exaggeration, the highest emotional return per dollar of anything I have ever placed on a front step in my entire career. The signal was always there. Buyers always felt it. The trade never pointed at it because there's no invoice big enough in a doormat to bother mentioning it. But I watched it decide sales, and now you get to see it too. Put it all together and stand back at the curb with me one more time. The crisp edge frames it. The dark mulch makes the green pop. The 2 matching pots frame the door. The even lights make it glow at night. The clean hardware, the bold numbers, and that fresh mat close the argument 3 feet from the entrance. Total cost, if you shop the dollar store carefully, somewhere around $20 to $30. Total approval needed from your association, none, because not one thing we touched is a permanent structure, a color change, or an installation they get to vote on. Every single fix lives in the zone that belongs entirely to you. And the verdict you just changed was going to cost you thousands. Remember that couple who never took off their seatbelt? The gap between the offer a house gets when the front says neglect and the offer it gets when the front says cared for is not a few $100s. On the research numbers alone, on a mid-priced home, we're talking a swing of many thousands of dollars decided in 4 seconds over details you can fix in one Saturday morning for the price of a pizza. Here's what I really want you to walk away feeling. For the first time, you just saw your own curb the way everyone else has been seeing it all along. The way the neighbor sees it, the way the buyer in the car sees it, the way you yourself feel it every night without naming it. That sight can't be unseen now, and that's a gift, because seeing it is the whole battle. You're the kind of person who'd rather hear the blunt verdict than be flattered into leaving thousands on the table or into pulling up to a home that quietly disappoints you every evening. That's why you watch this far. Most people won't. Most people would rather not know. So tell me, standing at your own curb right now, which spot did you just catch yourself worrying about? Was it the faded gray mulch, the blurry crept-over edge, the dark empty path at night, or that tired mat by the door you suddenly can't unsee? Pick the one that got you and type it in the comments right now. I read them and I answer. And tell me where you're watching from, your town, your state, your country, because I love seeing how far this walk reaches. If you'd rather learn to see your property through a buyer's eyes than be sold to by people who profit from your blind spots, come stand on the next curb with me. Because there's one thing about driveways, the biggest surface a buyer scans right before they even reach your yard, that quietly undercuts everything we fix today, and most homeowners are making it worse every time they try to clean it. I'll show you that one next. Meet me there. You made it all the way here with me, so here's what's next. Inside the curb appeal circle, I pick up right where we stopped with the full walkthrough. Ask me your own question and I answer you myself. No robots. You're not alone. Homeowners like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen and you can cancel anytime with one click. Now, let me show you how to make your backyard feel private and cozy, without ever asking the HOA for permission. Simple dollar store tricks that keep prying eyes away. That video's starting right here, so stay with me.